All right, we should be live. Hi, guys. Good evening.
Good
Uh,
evening, everyone.
yeah,
Welcome.
so welcome to our business webinar. Something that we start, I believe, yesterday. Is this your
Mhm.
first one, Michelle?
It is.
Cool. Yeah. So we're also offering these business activities. We know that many of you in school do them, and so on top of our regular focuses, we will be doing some businesses activities as well. Especially since we don't really know when this all will end.
Mm.
Actually, Michelle, I was talking to Sean in the previous webinar, and he was telling me that he heard something about like July. It's like something going on until July, which I'm not sure what
Wow.
it is. But
I think what they're saying now is that things would probably open eventually, but even during this, at least up to the start of the summer, um, public gatherings are going to be highly discouraged.
I see.
So no more parties at Barbianco.
Yeah, definitely no affair TV, things like that. Uh,
No. So I think that might be off limits for a while.
hmm Yeah, which it would make sense, right? Because I mean, all it takes again is one sick person to start it all over again. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll see. How are you holding up, Michelle, in all this? It's been a while now.
It has. I am fine, thank you. I'm a little worried about what's going on in terms of how many people are dying, and you just hear these stories about, suffering. And I feel so bad every morning because I just hear, children who haven't had meals and, people who are being buried alone.
Yeah,
I'm fine personally, and I'm very lucky and I'm very blessed and I'm very grateful. But I think about just what people are going through and I just feel really bad.
no,
But
I
other than that,
understand.
I'm great.
Yeah, in fact, I even, yesterday I like decided to like delete Twitter from my phone because I've been following, like the news, but also like the comments and some of the conversations, and then I realized it was kind of taking a toll on like my mental health a little
Yeah.
bit, especially just because I would get so angry at some of like the ignorant comments. And I think a lot of people are making this like such a political thing, and I understand how some people might be unhappy, but I just really think like we should all kind of put that aside for a second, just to
Yeah.
focus on like public health. And it's just I was like, okay, so I'm checking the news like twice a day and then just doing my part because yeah, it is rough.
It is rough
So
out there. We have a student. Fantastic. Hi, Clara. Clara's
hello.
from Pharma, and this is the first time she's doing a business focus. So that's exciting for us as well.
Nice, Clara. Yeah. Yeah, definitely welcome. Do you usually do these business activities in your school in Parma? Yeah, so just let us know and welcome. So, yeah, so maybe you know us from the other regular webinars, but in case you do not, so Michelle and I, we're both teachers at the Meravigli School in Milan, which is basically the central school. What else? So my name is Thiago, as you can see under my webcam there. I'm 29. I am originally from Brazil, but I've also spent several years in California growing up. And I've been in Italy. It's been around, I think, almost 10 years now, actually, in total.
Wow.
Yeah, not consecutive though. I kind of did a little bit of back and forth at first. Got to study abroad and then wanted to come back to work, and then kind of getting like a visa was a bit of an issue. So it was a bit of not a linear 10 years, but yeah, it's been a while.
And I'm Michelle. I teach with Thiago in Milano Meravigli, and I'm originally Pakistani. And I've lived in Milan for about 3 years now. Not as long as Thiago, though.
Yeah, how long have you been in Milan?
Just 3 years.
Okay, but that's about this. I mean, for Milan, it's also, I moved here in 2016, so it's been four.
Right.
4 years. Before that, I spent some time in Bologna, and Palermo for a bit actually as well, and in Crema, like a little town.
Nice.
So great. So Clara, you are actually the only student on right now, so we might have a few others. So do participate as much as you can. That's what makes these activities even more pleasant for us as well. Any questions, doubts, just let us know through the comments. Now, today we are talking about brainstorming, which I believe is also an expression that is used quite a lot in Italian. But Michelle, what is brainstorming? What do you think about when we see this word?
When I think about the word, when I see the word brainstorming, I think about a group of people sitting together and throwing out ideas to solve a common problem. And
Exactly.
I think the ideas don't need to be good or important. You're just throwing out the ideas here, hoping to inspire each other and possibly come up with something that's a fantastic solution.
Exactly. Yes, it's something that I'm the kind of person, for example, that before I share something, I really want to think about it. Oh, is this a good idea? And I try to approach it from different angles and see how it might be criticized. Brainstorming is a way to, kind of lighten this up a little bit. So just throw ideas out there, even if they're horrible. Let's just make a list and then we can decide on the pros and the cons of each later on. Yeah, great. So Kiara is saying that she's never attended a business activity, but she thinks it could be very helpful to work. All right, great, Kiara. So let's see then. Hopefully you will enjoy this one. So today in the topic of brainstorming, we will be talking a bit about innovations, suggesting ideas in a meeting. So how do you make suggestions in a meeting, and also how to react positively or negatively to ideas that are thrown. So, all right, we're gonna start talking about Elon Musk, an inspiring innovator. Let's see, Michelle, maybe we can divide this up here. Do you want to read until, I don't know, like contract or something, and I'll finish it?
Okay, perfect. An inspiring innovator. Elon Musk, the South African native who co founded the revolutionary online payment system PayPal in 1998, has since made his mark in the electric car industry, the space industry, and in the renewable energy market. On the
Great.
success of his rocket launches, NASA, so NASA, has awarded Musk's company, SpaceX, a lucrative contract.
Exactly. And in addition to his dream to colonize Mars, he envisions a world in which most of the energy needed comes directly from the sun and even powers compelling sports cars on the road. Great, fantastic. So we're gonna go over some of that vocabulary. Clara has a comment here. So I and my team did it many times because when someone doesn't have any idea about how to solve a problem, we speak and discuss to get new clues. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point of brainstorming. Very nice, Clara. So, all right, we have some of these words here in red. We can also see if there's anything else. And Clara, let us know if there's another word that you're unsure of. So, to make one's mark, so to make my mark, her mark, etc.,
Mhm.
is to make yourself known for something, right? So he has, since he created PayPal, so since then, he has made his mark in the electric car industry. So he has become well known in that sector as well. And then we have, I guess everything else here is okay. And then we have, of course, a lucrative contract. So lucrative, something that generates, it generates good earning for the company. So a contract, yeah, that generates good profits. Exactly. In fact, I believe if you speak a Romance language, so I would imagine that in Spanish and French would also be quite similar. The word, I think, lucro comes from, it means profit. So it should be pretty straightforward. And compelling. Compelling is something that generates interest. Yeah, something like important, relevant, that generates a lot of interest. Yeah, his car company is pretty. Yeah, I'm like afraid of saying brands now because I was doing a 6 to 7 focus with Danielle last week, and then it like got shut down, and we got an email saying that we violated some terms, and the only thing we could
Whoa.
possibly think is that we mentioned a couple brands, and so I'm like terrified of like saying anything. Although here, I mean, we
Okay,
do have
that is
PayPal and different things, so I don't know. Maybe it was something else. They maybe misunderstood something we said. I have no idea.
okay. I'm a
Uh,
little nervous. I come from a country with no freedom of speech, so I'm
yeah.
like, ding, ding, ding.
So do you want to have a look at this one, Michelle? Clara has another question for us.
Absolutely. What does envision mean? So, when we use the word envision over here, the first person is envision because we're talking about him in the third person, he envisions. The word envision is to imagine or picture something. And for example, children envision growing up to be scientists, astronauts when they're younger. They imagine or they picture themselves to be scientists or astronauts when they're older.
Exactly. I feel like it's used especially when it's a bit of an abstract concept, something that maybe doesn't exist yet, or see in the case of a child, um, it's hard to imagine because you're a child, your life is so different, you're going to school. So to envision, yeah, it can even be something that you're kind of creating in your own mind.
That's a
Yeah.
beautiful way to put it. You are painting a picture that doesn't exist as
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. All right. So yeah, this was just an introduction, guys. We're not going to spend too much time here because usually in school we do discussions, but we also really want to make sure we get to the sentences, the phrases that will be so useful for brainstorming. So we're going to go a little bit faster through the beginning, but just remember you can always go back and rewatch this if you want to like slow down and focus on other parts. All right. Now, here we have a few different innovations. We have, of course, the internet, social media, genome sequencing, smartphones, plastics, and antibiotics. And we have the different definitions. So if you can, watching at home, I see that one more person has joined us. Maybe let us know what this or what this refers to. What invention, what innovation does it refer to? You can let us know, but in the meantime, Michelle and I will slowly go through it so that we're not spending too much time on this slide. So Michelle, do you want to read that first one?
Sure. If you told someone 100 years ago that a compelling device in your pocket could access much of the world's information in a matter of seconds, they would believe you were a magician. Okay.
Mm. So yeah, so see, we do have the word compelling here again, which we saw before. So
Mm-hmm.
a compelling device in your pocket in which you can access most of the information. So I would definitely say we're talking about smartphones
I
in this
agree.
case. So D. And again, any words that might be unclear, just let us know. The second one, we have global communication has become near instantaneous due to this.
Clara got it right.
Great
Fantastic
job,
job,
Clara.
Clara. Okay, so global communication. So the way we're communicating with you right now, essentially, has become near. So what does that mean? How do you pronounce that word, Thiago? The last word.
Instantaneous.
Instantaneous. What does that
Instantaneous.
mean?
So instantaneous, basically like immediate, with minimal or zero delay.
Okay, fantastic job. Clara's got it right.
And I would say, yeah, both of them could work here, Clara. Yeah, internet or social media. Of course, social media is part of the internet. We use internet usually to access social media. So good. Let's see. Officially, it's telling us that it's the internet. So both work. All right.
Okay, number 3. We can determine which diseases we are likely to get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I feel this has some relevance. Um, so how do you decide, how do you know which diseases you're likely to get?
Yeah.
You get a blood test done, and usually a doctor lets you know. And when they analyze your blood, they look at your genome sequencing.
Wonderful. Exactly. Genome sequencing. Yeah. DNA information, essentially. So when we coded, we learned how it works. Number 4, we take for granted that a viral infection will not often be deadly. Very relevant. So that, and a good expression here as well we can talk about is to take something for granted. When you take something for granted, you assume something. You don't think about it. So very good, Clara. So antibiotics. See, because of this invention, because of antibiotics, we take for granted, we simply assume that a viral infection will not often be deadly. And yeah, focus here on often, as we're seeing an exception at the moment.
We're living in history. We're making history.
Yeah. Yeah, but then again, I'm thinking about it now, because I guess antibiotics, I guess it's not something we use for viruses, is it? It's for bacteria.
I
Just like
don't know.
trying to
I think that
remember like
sounds
my
about
biology
right,
days.
though.
Anyway,
I think that
I
sounds
might be
about right,
completely
though. That's
wrong.
why the cold virus cannot be killed because antibiotics don't work on it.
Yeah.
That's my understanding, but I have no medical degree,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. No, I like see. I'm like thinking back to my biology days in high school, which was a while ago. So I might be completely off here. Not that it's that important anyway. Okay. We have. Okay. Do you want to do number 5?
Sure. Virtually everything produced today owes something to this lucrative material. Okay, so lucrative, we saw that word before as well, which means generates profits. Um, so everything today has something in this from this, and as we know, this happens to be one of the worst things for the planet. I would say plastic.
Definitely plastics. Yep. Absolutely. And yep. Great, Clara. Perfect. And then to finish, number 6, we have this thing has revolutionized how we envision our network. So again, the word we saw before, envision. And of course, the one we have left is social media. So we see our networks very differently. Some people might have entire networks of people that they only know through social media or websites. One that comes to mind, I know there are like big communities for gamers, for instance, from all over the world, in which, obviously because of the distance, they maybe never met personally, but they interact. Maybe they're good friends through gaming and different platforms and etc. Cool. So guys, let us know if anything is not clear. We are going to move on in the meantime to get a little bit more practical. So let me ask you this question, Michelle, but Clara, also let us know. What innovations would you most appreciate during your next stay in a hotel? Have you ever caught yourself, wanting something that is not there or is not usually there, except for very few hotels?
Yes. It's not innovative, but a decent hairdryer.
Ooh,
Most
yeah.
Right, most hotels have these tiny little hair dryers which don't really do anything, and if you leave them on for too long, they just turn off. And as you can see, quite a bit of hair, so I would appreciate a good hairdryer.
Yeah, something
How about you?
more powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I stayed in this one hotel one time, and I never thought that it would make such a difference. But this hotel, it was basically the theme was like music. In fact, it was called like the Jazz Hotel, and inside each room they had this really nice speaker that you could connect your phone with, and they made the walls like all soundproof, so basically you could be like blasting music in your room. And it's really funny how much of a difference it made to just the whole ambiance and like being inside the room with music. And they really encourage you to use it, all the colors they used, so it's not something, essential, of course, but after staying in that hotel, like other hotels have never been the same, because I always
No,
think back to that experience and how
they
nice it
raised the
was.
bar.
Yeah, they really raised the bar. Exactly. So yeah, Clara, you can let us know if there's anything else that you would like. And and then in the meantime, let's look at the situation then. Do you want to maybe alternate, Michelle? You read the first, I read the second.
Absolutely. Shelby Retreats is a trendy new hotel on the island of Mallorca. They are currently redesigning the hotel to be high tech and very user friendly.
Exactly. And yeah, Clara
Uh,
has a good comment here. Oops.
Absolutely. On the days that I am going out, I straighten my hair. So yes, in a hotel, a decent hair straightener would save so much space in my travel bag.
I mean, even if you could like just leave maybe or just get it from reception, I could understand that perhaps it would be quite expensive to have like a powerful blow dryer and a hair straightener in each room. But you could maybe just like take it for like I don't know, like during your stay if you need it, or for a few hours or whatever. Yeah, it feels like it would make a big difference, and it wouldn't cost them that much. Great. Now, so we have this trendy new hotel in Mallorca, and they're redesigning it. They want it to be high tech. They want it to be user friendly. So we're going to read these early focus group reviews of the hotel and then decide what kind of services would be appropriate to offer. So they've received some reviews, and here they are. So I can read them for us. So first one says, really enjoyed the ambiance. I found the online booking a bit old-fashioned. I would have liked to choose more aspects of my stay more easily. Second one says, I'm a super anxious person and I worried all day about security in the room. Any way to calm a worrywart nerves? And last one, the lack of a concierge was frustrating. There must be a way to give your guests the info they want, and quickly. Yeah, good one. That's the one I was looking at. I guess the other one, like the concierge is like the area in a hotel where you get information. A lot of the times it's with the reception desk. Although if you go to fancy hotels, you might have two separate areas so you don't have a big line. So one for people to check in, check out, and one to get information. All right. So what kind of services could this hotel offer to make these types of clients happier? Do you have any ideas, for example, Michelle, while we wait for Clara's
Hmm.
feedback as well?
Well, obviously, the online system needs to be revamped, and we need to update the system, make it more.
Yeah,
And to
definitely.
give
I guess
and we need to be able to give the
I think there's maybe a bit of a delay.
hello. we Sorry, I was like, hello, like I'm on the phone.
No, no, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you because I think there was a bit of a delay. And no, but go ahead.
No worries. I forgot about it.
Okay, well, the one I was gonna say, like the second one, I was just trying to think of how we could maybe help ease anxiety on someone who worries about security. I mean, obviously, like a good system of keys. Like for example, one time I stayed in a place that they didn't have key cards; they had just physical keys, which people can, they can be afraid of losing it. And we've come to realize that every room, because it was a small B&B sort of thing, it was the same key for every door. So that made us a little uneasy. And then
Clara says um, they should create a new website.
yeah.
That's a good idea, absolutely. I am super anxious about security. Oh, and add more filters.
So when you're
That's a
booking,
good
yeah.
recommendation, Clara. I think a safe in the room is quite helpful. So, a place where you could put your valuables like your passport, your jewelry, your money, your iPad, maybe, and you should be able to leave it there. And then that could have a combination that only you would remember. And I think that would go a long way in making someone feel a little comfortable.
Yeah, definitely agree. All right. So let's move on. And so after receiving those reviews, those suggestions, the owners of Shelby Retreats, they decide to have a meeting to brainstorm tech solutions for the hotel. All right, so here we have their conversation. So I can be Ray Shelby, Michelle will be Judith Shelby. And so we will have this conversation, and then we can analyze and see what phrases are being used to make these suggestions, reacting to suggestions, etc. So looking at these comments, I would say we need some great apps.
I totally agree. But let's not go overboard. Couldn't we build a concierge app?
Now you're talking. Would it offer guests the option to reservations around town?
I hadn't thought about it that way. Yes, I don't see why not. It could also be tied to online booking, a simple app to make reservations and select from a series of options.
And what about security? How about installing cameras and give guests access to the feed?
Ooh, I'm not sure I like that idea. Won't they feel the hotel could be spying on them?
I see what you mean. Perhaps not the best solution. How would you feel about motion sensors?
I see what you're getting at. Picture an app that alerts them if someone is in the room.
Right. We could even send them an alert when the maid is there cleaning the room. Okay, good. And so, yeah, so the ideas that Clara had here, so the website or the app and then the filters, yeah, it's definitely there on the conversation. So, all right, Kiara, let us know if there's any vocab that you are unsure of. In the meantime, so let's just look at the text, look at this conversation a little bit better. So let's look for expressions in the text for making suggestions in a brainstorm. Okay, so not only the content of what they're saying, but really focus on the language. What words are being used to make that suggestion?
Okay, so when the first one, useful expressions in text for making a suggestion, I think the first suggestion is, I'd say we need some great apps because he is suggesting here that what they need are apps.
Exactly. I'd say. Another one that we could use on the second line, we can see we actually have two of them. We can always use let's work. So it can be negative or just, let's go, let's do something. And also here, couldn't we? Although I think the more direct one here would be couldn't we? But let's can also be used for making a suggestion.
Couldn't we build a concierge app? Okay. Next, I don't think there is a suggestion in Rachel B's next line. Judith. Okay, so when she says it could also be tied, because couldn't we build a concierge app? Similarly, it could also be tied.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to maybe point out here that even though when we say couldn't, when you see that negative, you might think that you're saying something is not possible. But if you're asking it like that, like kind of like a question, it's definitely used to make a suggestion. So yeah, I mean, the same way you say, we could build a concierge app, or if you're maybe more unsure of it, you can also make it in the negative and kind of turn it into a question. And then it works like a suggestion. All right. Another good one here is how about? We have the next line. How about? And then that one is always followed by the gerund ing. How about or what about? All right, Clara. Clara has to leave us. Thanks for joining, Clara. And you can always come back and watch this later. So if you want to see how it ends, it will be available on YouTube.
Bye, Clara. Thank you for joining us.
All right, let's see then if there are any others. Yeah, I guess how would you feel? Yeah, it's almost like you're asking for their opinion while at the same time making a certain suggestion. I think, from experience, I would definitely say that when you're doing this in English, I don't know, we tend to be very careful about not sometimes being overly assertive. And so it's rare for you to, I don't know, or at least in my experience, I feel like English speakers are not the kind of people who just say, oh, we have to do this, we should do this, or no, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. We're a lot more about kind of asking what people think. And so that's why we see things like, couldn't we? How about doing this? How would you feel about that? So it's a bit more passive in a certain way. Definitely, in my experience in Italy, I think Italians tend to be more assertive about what they believe should be done. So it could be a cultural thing.
I agree. I think that's very true. And if you scale back the language to simply ordering coffee at a bar, right? In English, we would never say, I want a coffee. We would say, I'd like to have a coffee, please. We'd tack a please on there somewhere as well. It's a cultural thing. But over here, we simply say, I want a coffee. And when I say, because I've just started speaking Italian a few months ago, and initially when I started converting, I would like to have a coffee, please, in Italian. The barista would just look at me like, "Why are you talking like that?"
Yeah. No, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, because I felt it was very rude to say, "I want a coffee."
Exactly. Yeah, or even I notice in Italian for sure, like the use of the imperative, is not unheard of, and it can actually be considered quite polite as long as you use the formal you, because that's another big difference is that in English, we always refer to everyone as you, whether, it's your friend or the president. So we tend to add these expressions and words, especially modals, to make things a little bit more polite. And so it comes a bit from that, I believe. So that's
That's
why when you look at these
true.
expressions, it might seem a bit too exaggerated, but it's definitely, culturally speaking, it's a good approach.
That is a good tip. Okay, next I think it should be um, picture an app that alerts them. Because again, you're trying to sell your pitch. So you're trying to understand how they would react to it.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny to see the verb to picture. Like picture
Mm,
something, and it's almost like an exclamation. Oh, think about this, as in picture, and try to have a picture in your mind. Try to imagine. Try to envision, as we said
there we
before.
go.
Cool. And yes, so picture, and then lastly, we could also say we could. See, it's same this way. It could. We could.
Mhm.
Certainly works as well. So that's it. So in the next slide, we will have this nicely organized for you as well, so you can divide them up. So just moving on to just another skill that we see in this conversation is, let's find some useful expressions for responding positively to suggestions. So if you agree, you think it's a good idea. So Michelle, what is one that we see right off the bat there?
I totally agree.
Exactly. Totally agree. Next one, we can also say, now you're talking, now you are, or also now we are. It's like an exclamation. Kind of, I wouldn't say it's casual. It is a bit more conversational. But yeah, oh,
Hmm.
now we're talking. Now you're talking. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, after that, I think, yes, I don't see why not.
Hmm.
Because you're agreeing and there's the word yes there. So that's usually a dead giveaway.
Sure. And then we have, when we go down, maybe here, I see what you mean.
Hmm.
Like I see what you're trying to communicate. I see what you mean.
And right underneath that, I see what you're getting at, which is exactly the same as I see what you mean. I see, understand what you're trying to communicate.
Exactly. I feel like you can even substitute the what with where. I've heard that a lot as well. I see where
Hmm.
you're getting at.
Yep.
And then, of course, we can also say right. Right. Yeah. All right. So these are all good ways of responding positively, agreeing with the suggestions that were given. Of course, you might be a little skeptical, or you might see reasons why maybe that suggestion is not such a great idea. And so we would respond negatively to that suggestion. And we have a few examples here as well.
Okay, so right off the bat, in the second sentence, let's not go overboard.
Hmm. Yeah, so what does it mean here to go overboard?
To go overboard is to overdo it.
Hmm. To overdo, to exaggerate.
Right.
Two G's, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, to go overboard too much. Okay. Another one, we could say, I'm not sure I like that. I'm not sure I like that idea. Okay, again, see, it all kind of comes to that idea of politeness we talked about before. See, in English, culturally speaking, I don't know, I find it would be perceived as quite rude for some to be like, oh no, that's not gonna work. That's bad. Where see, even
Definitely.
deep down, you do think it's pretty terrible. You kind of go, I'm not sure I like that. Or even, in some places, I know I've heard that a lot about the British saying things like, oh, that's interesting, as a way of
Yep,
saying that you don't quite like it so much. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
The British
And
have a saying. Okay, last one. Perhaps not the best solution. So again, it's that idea of politeness where you're saying this is definitely not good. You're not saying that. You're saying maybe it's not a good idea.
That's right. Exactly. I think we're done with these. And okay, expressions in the text for showing surprise. Something that you're surprised about. Okay, here's one. So I
Mhm.
hadn't thought about it that way.
And I think that's the only one.
I believe so. Yeah, that's the only one. Okay, great. All right, so essentially, here we go, guys. So we have our expressions for suggesting ideas, um, surprise, responding positively, responding negatively. So here we go. All right, so these are all pretty common. And usually, now I know that when you do these activities in school, I always like to mention that we can find them on the PDF. I know that perhaps with the fact that we're doing this as a webinar, it's not as easy for you to access because you don't see it on your page. But if, okay, for some reason you find that this is useful and you would like maybe to have a copy of this PDF, you can, of course, ask your schools once we reopen. The name of this activity is Business Advanced Meetings 1. Okay,
Remember
and so
that,
the
guys?
PDF usually has all this. Yeah. So let your consultant, your director, or your receptionist know, and they can definitely make sure you get this PDF. Because I know sometimes you want to prepare for a meeting. If you're doing it in English, it's a good idea to just be a little more comfortable by reviewing it. And of course, you don't have to use all of them. I always suggest choose 2 or 3 that you think are something that you would say. They feel more natural to you, and then focus on those. See, something like "now you're talking." I mean, that's like it's very well, not informal, but it's very natural for a native speaker to say. It's a bit hard, I think, for a learner to say
I
that
think you're
naturally,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Like now you're
I
talking.
absolutely.
Also, because it
Yeah,
depends so much on the way you're saying it, right? You can't
absolutely.
say "now you're talking," like that wouldn't work. Like now
No,
you're
it has
talking.
to be full of excitement.
Exactly. But things like "I totally agree" or "I see what you mean," I think can be more easily integrated.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. I think if you guys try to learn everything at once, you may lose it all, and that does happen. So pick and choose, like Tiago says, what you would stick with, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are things that you feel it's easy for you to remember because of whatever reason. Pick those ones, and and sometimes myself, when I'm studying a foreign language, I'm tempted to pick the stuff that sounds cool, but it may not be the stuff I can produce the best. So you know your strengths, play to them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's good to, of course, be able to recognize to see when someone says "now you're talking," then you know that they are, they agree with whatever was said. I also, many students told me that they find it really difficult in a business context to work precisely with native speakers because there are all these like more casual expressions that are thrown around that are
Hmm.
conversational. See, even like thrown around, like it's just quite natural for people to say. So it's best to just recognize them. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you absolutely must use them. Focus on the ones that you can.
Absolutely. And it's all for information, and if you can understand everything, half the battle has been won.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, we got about 5 minutes left. So, one thing that perhaps Michelle and I could do to demonstrate it is to look at a case study, and then we will do a role play. Trying to implement some of those expressions, just so you would see how this would work out. All right. All right. So I'll read the first, and you read the second, Michelle. Let's see.
Sure.
So, Nickel and Dime are a brewery in Boston that makes seasonal beers. St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and as one of the city's biggest days for beer consumption, Nickel and Dime would like to set up a fun beer tent in the city.
They need to decide what sorts of events to have and how to attract visitors from the parade. Their disadvantage is that they do not produce any Irish beer, although they do have a prototype whiskey in production. It is not quite ready, however.
All right. So basically, we need to have a brainstorming meeting as the managers of Nickel and Dime to develop a strategy to beat the competition.
So right off the bat, I would think that before we got into the brainstorming meeting, we would have to decide which departments would be involved in the meeting, right? So I would definitely say
Yeah,
senior management. So that would be the name of the department, right? I think also product development and perhaps marketing because it is a fair and it's a big day, and it's a fun beer tent.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it could also perhaps another department that could be involved in this meeting is also the legal department.
Mm,
Just because we're talking about having an event outside that involves perhaps serving alcohol, and so just understanding the limitations. Is it, if we decide to serve the prototype whiskey, does that have the same regulation as serving beer, etc.? So these are all things to keep in mind. All right. Okay, so let's imagine, all right, we have here, Michelle, do you want to be from a specific department?
sure, I could be. Okay, so you pick two and I'll pick two. So I could be product development and legal.
Okay, so I'll be senior management and marketing. Okay, fantastic. All right, so if you want to just like kind of open up the meeting, welcoming everyone, and then we can jump right in.
Sure, welcome everyone. We need to discuss the excuse me. We need to discuss St. Patrick's Day and how we're going to publicize it, the kind of events we need to have, and we also need to discuss a dilemma because even though we have a beer tent in the city, we do not produce any Irish beer.
Mhm. Well, couldn't we perhaps serve some of the whiskey? Because, we do have a prototype whiskey in production, and I feel that perhaps that could be a hit with the whole Irish theme.
Um, Perhaps that's not the best solution because the prototype whiskey isn't ready, and I fear backlash over a product that isn't ready to be deployed.
Yeah, that's true. I see where you're coming from. Plus, there might be some slightly different regulations to serving whiskey in tents as opposed to beer. So maybe it's a better idea to stick with beer for this event. Well, so the big thing is, of course, what can we do to attract visitors? Because there will be a lot of people participating in the parade. So how can we possibly stand out?
I think we need to get word out. We definitely could run a competition. Um, Perhaps couldn't we offer them free beer?
Yeah. How about coming up with a few like deals? Buy two beers, get one free, or something like that. Because I feel like on St. Patrick's Day, most people will be out to party anyway, and so I don't think they care so much about whether our beer is Irish. But if they see a deal, I feel like a lot of people would be willing to stop by, get to try our product, and then maybe buy them in the future as well.
No, we're talking. This is perfect. So, I do like your idea. I don't see why we can't do it.
Okay, well, fantastic. I think we do have a preliminary idea, we have some options to consider. So let's run these ideas with our departments as well, and then maybe we can meet next week and finalize a plan.
Definitely.
Good. All right, guys. So we hope this was useful. You were able to get some nice expressions and things. One thing you can easily do if you want to get a bit more comfortable with it, have a meeting with yourself, really. Just like play different roles. It sounds a bit silly, but hey, we're all stuck at home anyway. So yeah, just play the two partners, brainstorm some ideas, try to use the new expressions, work on your intonation. It can be a fun way of getting more use to these.
Absolutely. With that, unfortunately, our time is almost up.
Yeah, exactly. Anything you want to add, Michelle, before we wrap up for today?
No, thank you so much for joining us. Clara, we had a lot of fun with you. And if you guys are watching this afterwards, you guys can slow it down, speed it up, focus on the material that you find is most relevant to you. And I hope you find it useful.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much and have a lovely evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.